Here's a quick tip for Rachel Ann Quilts Mystery Quilt 2025 Block 5. So on step 1, you are cutting your pieces in opposite directions. And so I like to stack mine. Right sides are up. I know it's hard to tell because I have a plain fabric, but right sides are up. And then I actually lay them side by side so that it's easier to visualize which direction you need to cut. We're cutting from point to point. This is in step 1. And then we're cutting from opposite point to point for our other side. Now, once those are cut, we're going to move on to step 2. So let's just turn these around and get all of these. There, right sides are still up. I think it's a little easier to see where we're going with this. There, right sides are up. So now in step 2, you are pairing these together. So rather than trying to align these blind, not really understanding where you're going, you are going to take your ruler and you're going to draw a 1/4 inch stitch line. So a 1/4 inch from that diagonal edge, you're just going to draw a stitching line. I'm using the Friction heat erasable pens, so it doesn't matter that it's blue on my white fabric. So now where this line ends, that should be the edge, that's where the two fabrics should meet. If this went all the way to the end, you would see it's where the two fabrics meet is where you're going to align them. Clearly that's more than 1/4 inch hanging over the end, but the most important is where these points meet. That's where your stitch line should be. Once you have that stitched, you are going to open this up. I would press my seams open. I think it's a little easier here. You would press them open, and then this should measure 1.5 inches wide. That's how you know you'll have your diagonal in the proper position. This should be 1.5 inches wide, and don't worry about the length. We'll be trimming that shorter. The important part is that this, from edge to edge, is 1.5 inches wide. Now let's move on to step 3. So in step 3, we are taking our two different pieces. They're a little wonky looking with all of our little dog ears hanging over, but that's okay. And we're going to put them right sides together. See, when we fold them right sides together, that angle goes the same direction. We're going to be stitching a 1/4 inch seam down this edge. So we want to make sure that our points are going to line up. So I peel it back a little and then I just slide it together, making sure that these two seams are in alignment right there. And then I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch down this edge. So you can see I've got my 1/4 inch seam on there. And now we're going to press this open. I'm just going to do a finger press. Once I have it finger pressed, if I were finishing my block, I would take it to the iron once I was done. But for here, we're just going to finger press. So now you can see we have all this extra above the point. We want to trim this block. It tells you that you're going to square it up. Square being kind of silly because it's a rectangle, but we're going to square it up so that it's 2.5 wide by 3.5 long. My ruler happens to be 2.5 inches wide. It has this white center line down the middle, so I'm going to align that with my center seam. And as you can see, my block is a little bit shy over here. I'm a little short, but that'll be all right. So then this 1/4 inch dash line across the top should come just past the point of my star blade. So that 1/4 inch dash line is just past the point, and that's going to be my first trim. And then if we flip this around, I'm lining up that center line again, but this time I'm going to use the other end of my ruler where it has the 3.5 inch line. So now I have 3.5 this way, so I'm just going to trim that little bitty bit off the end, trim off any dog ears, and there is my star point.